Mr. President.
Senator from Massachusetts.
Wow. That was interesting. I remember the senator who was speaking before me, before we left, she was praising the Republicans for working with her, one Republican specifically, about how appreciative she was about working together and taking the time in a bipartisan manner to work forward on a very important piece of legislation that she was spearheading. And we worked forward. We didn't filibuster that. We didn't filibuster the postal bill. We didn't filibuster the violence against women. We didn't filibuster the crowdfunding or the insider trading bill, but all of a sudden we're filibustering now. No, listen, bottom line is we want to have the opportunity to have an alternative proposal and to have a full and fair debate. And I think the American people are smarter. I know the American people are smarter than that. And, Mr. President, I stand before you today to just reference that most students and parents know that in July, the fixed interest rates on subsidized government student loans are set to double. That was very eloquently pointed out just now. But let's be clear, the vast majority of the members of this body want to prevent that from happening. I think that's a no-brainer. Unfortunately, today we voted on a bill that is not bipartisan. It's very clear that it's not bipartisan to raise taxes on subchapter S corporations, which are the people that are doing some of the very serious job creation in this country. It's not going to pass the House. It's not going to pass muster for and with the American people. It was not negotiated in good faith. And as I said, it has no chance of passing in the House of Representatives. And once again, we're preparing for an unnecessary political battle. That's kind of what happens. We hit a political battle, we have a little rough spot, then we do two or three things that are really good, and then we kind of get stuck again, and then we do two or three things that are really good. And, it's unnecessary. We need to work in good faith to negotiate a compromise instead. A 100% Democratic bill isn't going to pass, folks, listening up there, listening on TV, and a 100% Republican bill isn't going to pass. It needs to be a bipartisan, bicameral bill that the president will sign. That's how we passed some of the most important pieces of legislation dealing with ethics on the insider trading bill that I was proud to sponsor with Senator Gillibrand in a bipartisan manner. We got it through and out of this chamber and passed and signed in record time by the president. We just passed the postal bill. We did the violence against women. We did the crowdfunding, the jobs package. We've done these things, so we need to work in the same manner. And with so many recent graduates, unemployed or underemployed, members of Congress need to work together to find a way to keep the interest rates where they currently are. Rather than wasting time trying to blame the other side, let's try to build some bridges. As we actually, before we left, I thought we had done. I was looking forward to coming back after the week off and getting right back at it and working on important things like cybersecurity and like the student loan interest issue. So let's allow people of good faith to figure out how to solve these very real problems. And that's why today, as I've referenced to many of my colleagues in our weekly caucuses and through email, a bill that would extend the 3.4% rate for another year without raising taxes as being proposed, or by cutting sacred programs, which is also being proposed. My bill, the Subsidized Stafford Loan Reduced Interest Rate Extension Act, would extend the subsidized rate for a year. And to pay for it, I suggest a non-controversial option, reducing federal improper payments. Now, we've all heard about the amazing amount of waste that goes on just by paying people that are dead, that shouldn't be getting their payments, and also paying other entities that have either already been paid or being improperly paid. It's billions and billions of dollars. The bill establishes a government-wide do-not-pay list and requires new audit pilot programs across federal agencies to provide more tools to battle back and make sure we can recapture those monies. And let me give you a few examples of the improper payments so the folks up there listening and watching on TV can kind of reference. And payments that I hear working as a ranking member of the Federal Financial Management Subcommittee, a committee that Senator Carper and I have been diligently working in a bipartisan manner, once again, to try to solve problems. Medicaid, which is the primary source of health coverage for over 50 million Americans, made an estimated $21.9 billion of your tax dollars in improper payments in 2011. The federal state unemployment insurance programs made an estimated $13.7 billion of improper payments in 2011. SSI made an estimated $4.6 billion in improper payments in 2011. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're looking for $6 billion to pay for their student loan extension. I just referenced, well, 21, 31, 4, 37, almost 38, $39 billion. We need 6. That's it. You know, we spend over $1 billion in payments that are sent to dead people, as I said. $1 billion we pay. Can you believe that? We pay $1 billion to people that are dead. Billions in payments that are sent to the wrong recipient, billions in incorrect amounts sent to the right recipients, and billions in payments where documentation is missing and where the recipient is not using the funds for the intended purpose. All we have to do is be marginally successful, just marginally successful, to recover the $6 billion we need to pay for this very important student loan program. When government is so wasteful, raising taxes should not always be the first thing that we look at. How about reestablishing the trust with the American taxpayer, the people that are listening up in the gallery and on TV? Why is it every single time we're going to raise taxes on one particular group or another? This time we're going after the small business owners, the sub-S corporation owners. And I'm not saying that my bill is the only answer, but it does provide a neutral starting point for both sides to come together in a truly bipartisan manner, as we've done before, to find a solution that we can all live with. And I'm willing to work with my colleagues, and I'm willing to consider all options that will allow us to move forward. And if we fail to act, we will burden our students who are going to college with an extra $1,000 in student loan interest, just because we couldn't find a compromise. Pretty simple. You know, the student loan situation, as we're all discussing and as has been discussed throughout this country through various media outlets and the like, and they're focusing more and more and more on this, which I think is critical, is we need to start a national conversation about addressing the primary issue affecting families with kids in college, the cost of annual tuition, room and board. Between 2000 and 2010, the cost of tuition, room and board rose 36%, and that's after adjusting for inflation. That means that students are now paying a third more for the same education they would have gotten 10 years ago. And looking at previous decades shows a similar trend from 90 to 2000. The increase was 26%, 80 to 90 was 37%. So why are students paying so much more for the same education? As we know, it's a huge problem for families. And while tuition is skyrocketing, there is still a total lack of transparency when it comes to schools' financial decisions. If the recent reports of outrageous administrator and faculty compensation packages are any indication, it would seem that students and parents are funding administrators and faculty members million-dollar salaries. Instead of being surprised by every new expose of outrageous pay packages, I propose increasing transparency by requiring schools to post their financial disclosures online, right on their websites, so everyone can see them. This would not be hard to do. In fact, the IRS already requires nonprofit institutions of higher education to file the IRS Form 990 yearly, which includes disclosure of the compensation packages for the highest paid employees. It also provides a financial snapshot of the school's finances and also how schools will choose to spend their tuition dollars. And making the information available so easily online will increase transparencies and allow students and parents and the general public to check the school's spending decisions way before they make headline news. On the outrageous pay issue, Sunlight may help begin to solve the spending problem associated with the high cost of education. No one disputes the importance of a college education, but we're setting our students up for failure by giving them above-market student loans and not requiring our schools to be transparent about their financial operations. So my suggestion, Mr. President, is let's work together. Let's not fail our students. It's time we finally focus the federal government on how we can set our students up for success instead of failure. So, Mr. President, I want to thank you, and I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.